All right, done. Here it is. Final resolution. The end of the beginning, which is fitting for this show. The end of the era, but the end of the rebirth of what TNA had been. Let's put some perspective before I get started. I'll make it as quick as possible. As you already know, Impact changed over in 2017. What was it? It was March 9th. They changed over to Impact Wrestling from TNA. But here's the thing. For the majority of fans who didn't check what the company was doing in the background, they went by what was being stated on the show. Mick Foley around, what was it? It was maybe March or May of 2011. He said TNA was not going to be TNA anymore. It was going to be Impact. Not just more impactful, more honorable, but it was going to be called Impact. By 2012, like myself, if you look back on my playlist, well, from whatever playlist I have, if you look back all the way back to my oldest videos of TNA in that time period, 2012, I started calling it either Impact Wrestling or TNA Impact Wrestling, because they didn't really say which one it was going to be. It was either going to be Impact, sometimes they said it, or TNA Impact. That is what we wrote if you wanted to put anything on YouTube so people would know what you're looking for. Because it was either TNA or Impact or TNA Impact. Several people were doing the same thing, like the British Fist was doing it, like the Off the Rope show, the original, not OTS right now, where the Slick Daddy still does his videos, but he doesn't review Impact anymore. He works corporate, so he's very busy. So he doesn't really do reviews much anymore. And that is what we went by. So this is the end of that moment where they decided, well, we don't want to stay as we are. We're going to try and change ourselves so we become more marketable, since Spike is not going to be with us anymore and Dixie Carter is not going to be with us anymore. Now, we got 3 matches on the kickoff. And let me give it to you like this. We had 2 matches that had 2 veterans and 2 new guys, and 1 match that had 2 new guys that were probably the first time anybody's seen them or even recognized them. PCO versus Jesse, what was it? Oh yeah, it was Jesse Z. Didn't see the guy before. Interesting. I'm not saying that he's going to be working for TNA, because understand, the people who appeared here were from Battle Arts. That is Santino's school. Many of the students there, they either learn actual martial arts or learn pro wrestling. It's either one they want to learn, or both. So they're from Battle Arts. And even though this was the Don, what was the name of it? Don Koloff. And I do remember a little bit of Don Koloff. I think I might have seen him on WWE TV maybe once or twice when I was younger. So I think I know who he is. And they made an arena for him. Good. It's good to see they honor people who came before, counting if they were good people, not someone who is bleh. But when it came to PCO, he pretty much, let's make it clear, he was going to win. Now, for the second match, which was Jack Price and, what is the guy's name? Aiden Prince. Now, I do remember Aiden Prince. And Jack Price, he looks like the guy who was in the parody, if I could be wrong, but the parody of the Impact Provincial Wrestling Federation. I believe he was from that. When he was with the Sunday Morning News, when he was working with Chris Sabin. I think that was him. I think. It was alright, but since Price was a gut check winner, but he hasn't done anything, I'm not kind of surprised that this guy won, because he's more connected to Impact than Aiden Prince is, because I've seen Aiden Prince, I believe, on AEW TV and AEW and in NWA, I think once a long time ago, I think. And then we got Shilton Jean versus Kaz. Kaz was going to win. This was to at least show them, Give everyone a moment. And let me give you like this. I am not going to cover absolutely everything in detail here because when I saw this card, I knew two things. One, that the more popular were going to be over. And two, there was going to be no title changes whatsoever. Let's make that clear. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine booking. That's one-on-one booking for something that's minor. Something that would be like a WWE live event. Or in this case, an Impact Plus show. They weren't going to make too much of a change because they weren't really spotlighting it. Because if they did, we would never had the IW. Let's make it clear. I have no idea if the Impact Provincial Wrestling Federation is going to come back. Maybe it might be the only time they're going to use Impact in that respect. Other than the Impact Plus show that's going to be called Impact. Trying to keep the name around. But you're never going to know what's going to be IPWF if it's going to come back. But there was no way that we're going to see any changes. None. So the tag match that we got for the tag titles between ABC as well as Eddie and Myers was not a bad match, but I didn't expect it to go anywhere. Other than ABC would go over and they would stay the Impact champs until Hard to Kill when the new titles roll around and either they're going to be allowed to get them by the whatever match is going to happen for them or they're going to drop it to somebody else. Now, after the match was over and during that match, Eddie Edwards got a cut right here. He got busted open when he got thrown out by, I believe it was Ace Austin, threw him outside the ring and he must have hit his head on something or his face because he started bleeding right here. Alicia did not handle it very well. Alicia didn't have nothing about it. She said, we're not going anywhere. We're going to, and both of the men were there. Both Myers and Eddie were there. They were going to try and hijack the show. But since it was Battle Arts, and I got to say this, when it comes to Santino, I will say that the people who ran his cameras, if they were from Battle Arts, they knew what they were doing when it comes to running cameras because the camera work generally was good. Yeah, there were a few botches on some of the matches, one or two, when it came to the camera work where it was either too close like this or they just were not in position. It happens. It just happens. But in general, from the beginning, it was very good work. And the middle and the end, maybe that's where a few botches happened. But in general, the work and the cameras were good. The lighting was good. The fans' participation wasn't great. But it could also be due to the fact the audio wasn't good and that the arena wasn't very large. But there was easily more than 3, 4, maybe 500 people in that arena. Easily. But I'm telling you right now, Santino comes out. He says, oh, no. I am the director of authority. And you better get out of that ring and get paid for it. And pretty much she did because she went up against Jody Threat. I'm going to tell you this. They just wanted to spotlight Jody. I'm sorry. Alicia was not one of the best people to use in that spot. I'm not against Alicia. I don't hate Alicia. But she's more of a manager than anything else that rarely wrestles. That should rarely wrestle. She's just not a very great wrestler. She's an okay wrestler that can be used in certain circumstances, but this is one of them. I would rather see one of the knockouts in the back they haven't shown yet. Maybe on BTI. There's supposed to be a Japanese wrestler that's there. That's a female. I want to see her, but we get Alicia against Jody Threat. And Jody goes over like I'm not surprised. She's very popular there, like I said. And that's what we got. Next, Digital Media Championship. I'm just going to go through this very quickly. Tommy versus Deaner. You know who's going to win. Tommy. It happened. I'm not saying it was a bad match, but it's Tommy. There's no way on the last show where Tommy has been coming to Impact TNA for many, many years, on the last show before they transitioned back to the original name, that he wasn't going to go over. Deaner hasn't been doing anything other than the hard workers. We haven't seen much of Deaner. We haven't. either because he's been injured or they just haven't used him much due to the fact there's been very little anything that they show. So I'm not surprised. And to be honest, it's fine. I would like to see something new from Deaner, but this is what we got. Let's move on to a match that is not supposed to be a tag team match, but became one. Speedball Mike Bailey was originally supposed to go against Trent. But when it came down to it, during the ABC match, you got Rascals attacking them. So the Director of Authority decided you guys are going to pay a price even though you both had the option and are going to go up against them and Hard to Kill. They said, we don't want to wait. Well, now you're going to have to go up against them. And this is where it gets interesting. For me personally, I didn't know much about Trent Seven. I haven't. Because I didn't watch NXT UK much or at all. I didn't know who he was. I know Tyler Bates. I know Pete Dunne. But I didn't really see much of Trent Seven. Sorry, I haven't. Now, when we did go to the UK, when they did their UK invasion, which was bad camera work to a certain extent, and worse, they didn't even show the entire tournament that was there, where Trent Seven had to be a part of it, I felt that was a lost opportunity. They just didn't want to show much over a 2 or 3 week period, which could have been good for Impact Wrestling, but they chose not to. But we got a chance to see Trent Seven. He's a fine wrestler. He's not bad. Now, Mustache Mountain is now grayed. Either he dyed his hair gray, but he looks like he's just turning gray. He's 42 years old. He's much older, and we do know that wrestlers tend to get aged quickly when they reach into their 40s. They get grayed very easily. Look, I'm 52, and I started graying by the time I was, 45, 46, I think. I mean, really started to show gray, because you can see this. It's grayed. But the rest of my hair, as you guys have seen, is still black, shockingly. I'm shocked that my hair is black, and I'm shocked I still have something on my head. But he looks very gray with his hair. Either he dyed it gray, or pretty much he just turned gray. He did a good work. It wasn't bad. I was not surprised at the work he did with Speedball, and he worked well with him. But the thing that got me, Don Koloff, after the match was over and they won, you know Speedball and Trent Seven was going to win. Pretty much, you got Scott D'Amore coming out, talking about how he got, not everyone got started in Impact Wrestling, but how can I say this? When he got the call to come back to Impact after he'd been gone for a while, and the people that he's seen during his time when he was wrestling and when he became a teacher, he'd seen Pete Dunne, he'd seen Tyler Bates, and he's seen Trent Seven. And he also seen the Walking Weapon and signed him. He signed the Speedball Mike Bailey, and now he said, happily, he signs Trent Seven. So Trent Seven has been signed to Impact Wrestling. So he had the contract, which we already know he already signed quite a while ago. But he got a contract. He signed on the back of Speedball Mike Bailey, who also had a chance to sign on the back of Josh Alexander. I don't know why I said Scott. Scott didn't wrestle. But we got a new person in Impact Wrestling. No problem. Sorry if I sound a little rancy. The weather here in New York is... Guys, it should be way colder. Our humidity over here is 95%. We got 95% humidity in New York right now, where there's still rain that's about to be expected. 95%. This is the weather that messes up my throat and everybody else's. But we got this. Now, Hunch, in the very beginning of the show, decided to take out Jake because he was supposed to have a match with Jake something. And I'll say this. When he was about to talk, I knew there was no way Jake something wasn't going to come out. But to be honest, what they did here was trying to make a match mean a lot more than what it was. And even though somewhat the fans got into it, it didn't need to be here. It could have been on Impact TV. I mean, let's be honest. The next show, which will probably be in January, because we are very, 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 very close to the near end of the year. We'll probably get one more show, maybe one more show from Impact, maybe. But I doubt it. Yeah, wait, I think we will have one more show because the next show should be the 14th. After that will be the 21st and the 28th. The 21st will probably be the last show we'll get for the entire year of anything if they're going to do it. It's going to depend. They may give us 3 weeks of what Impact used to be over the last several years. I don't know. But we may get actual showing this 14th before we get the 2 weeks of no TV until next year. That's probably what we're going to have. I'm not going to say the match was bad. It was not. At one point, the reason I just botched is because you're looking at Jake something, a really big-ass guy, not move an inch when you see Hunch trying to slam into him, and literally as Jake stops and he slams into him because they were going at each other after they were going to the ropes, slam, and Jake stays right there, and Hodge flies back and hits the ground. Not once, but twice. That had to hurt. I don't care who you are. That was not fun. And oh, that reminds me, I almost forgot. During the match between Alicia Edwards and Jody Threat, there was a situation where I think Alicia might have hurt her right knee, because Jody Threat, while she was on her back on the floor after being in a Boston Crab and then a half crab, Alicia was trying to keep a grab on her legs, and when she kicked her, she flew back and her leg twisted bad as she landed. I'm just hoping she didn't tear her ACL, MCL. That's what I'm hoping for. She was still able to continue the match, but not very fast. I'm hoping she did not get hurt when Jody kicked her back. I almost forgot that. I had to say that just so you know. Now, the match that I will say needed to happen for Moose, because he needed something extra before going into Hard to Kill. Moose versus Rhino. Now, I didn't expect a lot from this match because it was a standard match. But then as the match was going on, it was less than a few minutes, you see Moose nutshot the hell out of a Rhino and DQs it. Rhino says, no. This is the last match of this show's title, and basically of Impact. I don't want that. I want a damn street fight, and Santino sets that up. I do believe this did help Moose. It was a good street fight. It wasn't the best. It was good. But we got 2 refs nailed during that match. And then Moose wins. I'm not going to tell you the match was bad. It wasn't. It was fine for what it was. It was okay. Admittedly, when you see Rhino compared to Tommy, let's make this clear. Who is more agile at this point in their career? Because both of them are in their 50s. I think, wait a minute. I know Tommy's about my age, and I think Rhino's maybe slightly older than him. I could be wrong. He could be either the same age as Tommy or slightly older by maybe 1 or 2 years. I think. I could be wrong. I just don't remember. But Tommy is just not an agile wrestler anymore. I think I botched here because I don't want to make Tommy sound like he's a piece of garbage, because he can't wrestle the way he used to years ago. He can still wrestle, he's just not fast. But when you look at Moose, dealing with Rhino, he is much faster. He's able to get that speed up. He's able to be more agile. Even though he's stiff like Tommy is, because he just isn't as flexible as he used to be. He's not Rob Van Dam. But he is more faster, he is more flexible than Tommy is. That's the reason why the match would look better with him than it would be Tommy. But Tommy has his moments. He just does. Now, 2 more matches left. Oh, I wish the weather was not like this. This weather sucks for people who naturally have allergies. Your throat always gets irritated when the weather gets very humid. I don't care who you are. I met many people like that, so it sucks. The 2 matches I was looking forward to. Grace and Trinity versus Purrazzo and Gazelle Shaw. Now, I want to say this. Gazelle Shaw was honored as, well, I don't remember which magazine it was, a sports magazine for pro wrestling, I believe. She's honored as the best transgender wrestler there is for this year. For 2023, she's the best. So that means she's better than Nia Rose and any other transgender female there is. Now I want to say this. Compared to what WWE would have done, compared to what maybe AEW would have done, Impact is a bit different. They gave her the Impact Diaries to be able to say whatever she wanted and to be spotlighted. No problem. That's something you have to look up on YouTube for yourself, not something that's just interjected into the regular programming. So I felt that was a very good thing. And here, there's nothing wrong with stating what a person has done. What I've always hoped for, because when it comes down to it, and I'm saying this right now before I get to the match, I'm saying this, it doesn't matter if they were male or female, if it was for their gender or their race, or even their ideals or their religion. If your focus is to make sure this wrestler is over, you can interject those things when it's necessary, but if you make it the emphasis, kind of like what happened with Tessa Blanchard, making it about her being a woman becoming the first Impact Wrestling champion, that's where they screwed up. Because they should have made it like she was a Daniel Bryan style character of an underdog, always undersized, was never really considered better than anybody. It could have been for female or male, just never better than anybody. If they had done that, that would have been better for Tessa, but they never went there. Here, with Giselle Shaw, they never emphasized that she was a queer male who has gone through transgender. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but there are people who still see it that way. As a transgender, it doesn't matter. She's just a pro wrestler who's gone through several storylines, and that's it. And that's the way it should be. Now, when it came to the match, I felt the ones who had the best chemistry was Deanna and Trin. Let's make that clear. Trin and Deanna have really good chemistry. Because in this match, they actually did things different compared to the last 3 matches. And it showed. And I did like that. Giselle Shaw looked like she's improved herself. And Jordynne Grace, I'm not going to tell you she hasn't improved. But you can see Jordynne Grace's style is pretty standard because of her build. Let's make this clear. I still love Jordynne Grace. She's still a beautiful woman, even though she's cock diesel right now. Her breasts have shrank. If you've seen the pictures I've shown, when it came to Jordynne Grace, she had a nice pair of boobs. They shrank because of her wanting to become more of a bodybuilder and possibly doing some type of enhancement or not. We don't know. But she has a certain strong, physical strong type of style that she doesn't really deviate from. Yeah, she can alter a little bit, but she mainly stays to it. And she's very consistent. And that's something not many people want to hear. It's not about how high flying you can be or how hard hitting. It's about how consistent you can perform and look good while doing it. And that's what she's been able to do. In the end, they were able to work together because Gia tried to say, are you two going to be able to work together? And Trin said, of course we can. There's no problem. And then there was a little bit of banter because they're about to have the match at Hard to Kill. Match is the same thing. They did not have any controversy. They managed to do it, and they won. At the end, when it was over, and Deonna Purrazzo, how many times has she lost now? She lost to Trin 3 times. She lost to Jordynne Grace once. She just lost to Trin again. That makes 5 losses, I think nearing 6. I think she had 5 nearing 6 losses. Not counting in a tag match. So she has 6 losses, one of them in a tag match. And I'm wondering what the hell. I know there's a good possibility she might be leaving the company. And that might have been the final match for her, I think. I don't know. But if she's still in the company, she's down here. And they're going to do something hopefully with this. Because after it was over and she tried to apologize to Shaw, she shook Shaw's hand. And Shaw basically nailed her to the floor. She gave her, I believe, a flatliner? I can't remember what she gave her. But flat out, she nailed her ass. Done. So either Shaw's going to have a feud with her when they go back in January, or this might be the last time we see her for either a while or ever. I don't know. Final match, which I knew the one person there was the most interesting was going to be Zack Sabre Jr. He's been on AEW TV. He's in New Japan Pro Strong and New Japan Pro Wrestling, I believe. I don't remember him being in MLW. I do believe he was. And I don't remember him being in NWA. He might have been, but it might be during the time I did not see it. But I am familiar with Zack Sabre Jr. on ROH TV. Well, ROH AEW TV. Then the match was going to be fine. Seeing that we finally get a match where Zack is going to be going up against Alex Shelley. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see how Alex and Zack work. And to be honest, I would rather see Alex and Zack than Moose and Alex. I'm just saying. That's just how I feel. But it was not a bad pairing. They did also the opposite when it came to Josh as well as Chris. And Chris with Zack, it didn't make a difference. It was alright. In the end, Zack and Josh won. And I do believe Chris Sabin ate the pin by Josh. This is where it gets a little interesting. New Japan Pro Wrestling still has Zack Sabre Jr. on their roster. I don't believe his contract is up. But you wonder, could they sign Zack Sabre Jr.? I would suggest yes. They've already tried to sign Will Ospreay and they could not. They already tried to sign CM Punk. Well ahead of the time, they tried to sign him and they could not. But do I believe a Zack Sabre Jr. will be good there? Yeah. He's a good-ass wrestler. And he does have a good demeanor of himself. He can talk well. He talks better than Grayson Waller. They both got the same accent. They're both Australian, I believe. Well, yeah, Zack Sabre Jr. is Australian. So it's about their delivery, their charisma. And I don't hate Grayson Waller. I still like him. But when you see Grayson Waller and the Grayson Waller effect, where his charisma gets sucked away, Zack is a lot more charismatic. He's more interesting. He's well better than Nolan Dar, who is Scottish, but he's not interesting Scottish. He doesn't have a lot of charisma. Only thing he has mainly is metaphor and his style of wrestling. He just doesn't have charisma. And his mic skills have always been questionable. It's not his accent, it's just his delivery is bad. So, essentially, I would hope they sign Zack Sabre Jr. if his contract in New Japan Pro Wrestling is done. But here's the thing. What did we get here? The end of the beginning. It's finished. It's over. Now, does that mean they'll switch over to TNA in the next couple of weeks? No. For the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th, we'll probably get, on the 14th, maybe one more regular show of Impact Wrestling, maybe, for this year. Or we will start getting basically maybe 3 weeks, of what was going on through Impact throughout this year and the years before, because Impact is done. They're not going back to Impact. They will be switching to TNA once they hit Hard to Kill. So that'll be maybe 3 weeks of Impact TV, I believe, of the Impact Zone. And then they'll switch the name over on the 13th. And then they do Snake Eyes, I believe, on the 14th, which I don't think we're going to be able to see. It'll just be for tickets. But this is just me, and I hope you enjoy this Final Resolution 2023 review. The end of the beginning. Peace.